Laura, if you look back over 2021, what are the things that have stood out for you in your policy area?
Well, I guess it's that it's really been a record-breaking year for investment in social housing. So even in the financial year that we're currently in, the addition of 50 million for the social housing grant, taking it up to 250 million, four times that in 2016, and a range of other investment areas as well. It just really shows us, how fortunate we are in Wales to have a government that is so committed and understands so clearly the need to build more social housing. To create access to affordable homes for people.
You've got lots of commitments. I've talked with other colleagues in this series of videos about those commitments, but they also come with challenges, don't they? Do you think that we've got the money to back up the ambition, or is there still work to do there?
Well, I think the important thing about housing associations and social housing is that housing associations are able to blend the grant they receive with other resources like private borrowing, and so every pound of public investment goes further. For that reason, we knew it was really critical when the government was coming in to the Senedd in May, the new government after the election, that they kind of understood the contribution that brings, and particularly in light of where we were, kind of coming through the COVID-19 pandemic, the contribution of housing associations to kind of rebuilding the economy, which is why we were so kind of clear during the year that a focus on working with political parties to build their understanding of that's so important.
I suppose you'd probably agree with this assessment, which is, and again, I've touched on this with others, which is the pandemic has brought into focus, hasn't it, the need, perhaps more so than in other ways. We've seen a huge focus on homelessness, which we've discussed in other videos, and this sort of, like I say, this ambition coupled with the money is probably brought about, obviously because there's an overarching crisis to deal with in housing and the need for housing, but it's that focus in that really targeted approach to tackling the problem, which is that, have you seen that as a major shift in the last year, do you think, compared to other years?
Within Wales, I think there's always been a commitment to and an understanding of the role of social housing within the foundational economy. Just this year, when we published our global accounts, it was showed that housing associations contributed 1.3 billion to the economy, and 85% of that expenditure related to Wales, and also provided 11,000 full-time equivalent jobs. So not only providing affordable homes, but also really contributing to the economy. And I think Wales has a strong understanding of that and an ethos of foundational economy. So I don't think that was anything that was new. I think that obviously it brought into sharp relief the fact that in the public consciousness, the need for affordable housing rose. And also the need for kind of organisations like housing associations that can galvanise support for people, and are so central within communities. In addition, obviously, we know that more than ever before, people are claiming universal credit and in financial situations which are challenging. And so a lot of the things that we knew already in terms of the challenges that people face have just been, kind of brought into sharp relief and made more acute, and risen up the public consciousness.
Yeah, absolutely. When you look back over the year, explain to us some of the work you've actually been doing. What does your role mean you have to do? How do you spend those hours in that space?
So in terms of getting the social housing we need built, there is a lot of work with housing associations themselves to understand the way in which they plan to develop housing, any barriers that stand in the way to that, whether it be to do with the kind of planning system, whether it be to do with costs, whether it be to do with how to balance all of the different pressures that we have at the moment, and then communicating that to government. We're really lucky to work with officials within government who have an understanding of this, and also with partners, local authorities who hold the kind of planning in terms of social housing. So we work with members as part of that. Obviously, also as policy and external affairs team here at CHC, kind of campaigning, getting the message out, telling the story is really important. So, as I say, we did that a lot around the Senedd election, building understanding within political parties, and then following the election with the incoming Labour government, working with them on the programme for government that they published, in which this incredible commitment to support the development of 20,000 low carbon homes for social rent was made. And we are looking forward to the budget in December, in which we can find out a bit more about how the social housing grant will support that ambition. But yeah, we work, as I say, to tell the story of housing associations with housing associations to kind of make sure that our ambition to build affordable homes is realised.
We'll come on to 2022 and looking ahead in a moment, but when you think back to 2021, how does it compare to other years? And you mentioned some of the pressures and the work obviously around those pressures, but how do they compare to previous years? And I suppose what challenges do they potentially pose for 2022?
Well, I mean, I think that is an excellent question, because it's a range of challenges, isn't it? And obviously COVID-19 is central to that. But also the other issues with regards to kind of supply chain, cost rises, cost of living rises. We worked with the policy team here closely with housing associations who have such a detailed knowledge of the concerns that tenants have with regard to their finances and the impact of the £20 per week cut to universal credit. And so, we know that as I said before, more and more people are claiming universal credit now, and so those kind of changes have a real impact. And so all of these things brought together, and the fact that sometimes it does feel like it's challenge building on challenge and challenge, and so that is really difficult. But I think the thing is, housing associations every time have risen to that challenge, and have been incredibly impressive in their agility and their ambition and their problem solving to try and overcome that. And I know that will carry over into 2022. It's going to continue to be an acutely challenging time. We're not at the end of these all of the different pressures that are facing our tenants, our suppliers, housing associations themselves, the whole of Wales. But we're confident that housing associations will continue to use that approach to overcome and navigate those challenges.
Well, you talked about 2022 there. I'm going to ask you to look into your crystal ball. What do you see for 2022? What are the things that are on your radar that you think, right, that's a key thing to keep our eye on as we work through those challenges? Well,
I mean, I think it's the budget in December, the draft budget, as I say, is going to be really key, because that will help us to understand the money that's available within the system, and that will shape what 2022 looks like. Also, we have local elections next year, so that will be part of the political picture, and a lot of what I think you'll have heard from others, particularly in terms of decarbonisation. We're going through a programme called Optimise Retrofit, which is going into its second year, and that's going to be really important, as well as the building of the 20,000 low carbon homes, beginning that. So it's going to be a picture of kind of an interesting political situation, I'd say, in terms of local elections, but also in terms of the fact that we've seen this Welsh Labour government and Plaid Cymru cooperation agreement, which has set a really ambitious programme of working together, really bringing Plaid Cymru, special advisors and others into government to try to work on some incredibly ambitious policy areas, which, a lot of them relate to the work that we do. So it's going to be fascinating to see how that plays out and how we can bring the insights and experiences of housing associations to help to achieve some of those ambitious goals.
Absolutely. Well, Laura, you've obviously got a busy time ahead. Thank you so much for your time.